Rogers is down on strikes, and the Royals take game one thanks to a big sixth inning started by a Salvi home run.
Break up the Royals. The Royals are red hot. They've won 4 in a row after they swept the A's over the weekend. Royals opened a 3-game set with the Tigers last night with a win at the K, 8-3. Led 2-0 on a Michael Massey home run in the second inning. He went 3 for 4. He's been a lift offensively at second base since he came back from injury. Salvador Perez with a mammoth blast, his 9th homer of the year, 436-foot shot into the left center fountains. Started a 6-run 6th inning, 2-run double for Hunter Renfroe also in that inning. Michael Wacha gave up 2 runs on 6 hits in 7 innings. He's 4-4 with the win. He has now put together 3 consecutive starts of 6+ innings with 2 earned runs or fewer. His ERA over those 3 starts, 2.37. Opponent's batting average, 176. He just needed 89 pitches, 60 were strikes to get through 7 innings yesterday. He walked 1, struck out 3. Matt Cotrero, the manager of the Royals, on that big 6th inning that blew the game open.
The 6th inning tonight was a big inning for us. Really good at-bats. Clearly getting Olsen out of there early was a factor in that and going to the bullpen. But those guys have good arms, and our guys put good at-bats together, and they did it one right after another. It was really impressive.
So we have some pretty amazing stats when we look at the Royals. First of all, the Royals starters have completed at least 5 innings in 15 consecutive games since May 5th, a stretch in which they've allowed more than 2 earned runs only twice. Their rotation's ERA is 4th best in baseball, 3.06, helped out by Seth Lugo, who's 7-1, ERA at 1.79 in 65 innings. He leads the American League in all of those numbers: wins, ERA, and innings. That's pretty impressive. The Royals have won 4 in a row. They're 30-19 on the season, a game and a half behind the Guardians. Royals are one of 5 teams with 30 wins or more this season. Only the Phillies, Dodgers, Yankees, Guardians, and Royals have 30 wins. Royals are 11 games over 500 for the first time since the end of the 15 season. Let me see. What happened in 15?
I think they might have won a World Series.
I believe they did. The 2024 Royals are 30-19, now have a better record than the 2015 Royals, who won the World Series back in 15 when they were 29-20. Only the 1976 Royals got off to a better start in club history than this year's team at 31-18. They started 31-19, by the way, if you add a game. So if the Royals would win today or tonight, that would be 31-19 and match the best start through 50 games in Royals history. Game 2 of 3 is at 6:40 tonight against the Tigers. Alec Marsh on the hill, 3-1, ERA at 2.43. This is a Sports Ticket brought to you by Kiefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit, your home for fast, friendly auto repair. We're going to get the Lakeside Golf coming up in just a little bit as they win another state title on Sand Greens. We'll talk some NHL, some Stanley Cup. We'll talk some NBA, Caitlin Clark, Big 12, a little nugget or two about the Kansas City Chiefs, including some new information coming out about Rashee Rice. And we will ask Dusty about his road trip south because he's a big fan of going through Oklahoma and into Texas. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. But with the Royals, real quickly, they had to address their pitching. Their pitching was horrible. Last year at this point, they were 14-33.
Mm-hmm.
Their starting pitching was horrible. Jordan Lyles was in rotation, told you all you needed to know. Brady Singer wasn't very good because he was in the World Baseball Classic stuff and he didn't get pitched very much, and he didn't pitch as well. And they had Zach Greinke that had to pitch, and he's not even pitching this year. The bullpen was not good. And they had some injuries, too. Vinny Pasquantino missed pretty much most of last season, so forth and so on. But the Royals addressed the issues, much like the Chiefs addressed their issues during the offseason. They addressed starting pitching with Lugo and Wacha. Alec Marsh, they figured him out last year, brought him up, and he's done well as a 5th starter. He's been very good. ERA at 2.5. Lugo's been unbelievable. Wacha's been solid. Singer is now excelling because there's not as much pressure on him. I believe that's part of it, and he didn't have to worry about the World Baseball Classic this offseason before and during training camp or spring training. And the Royals are doing this. Honestly, here's the scary part, and there's 2 ways of saying scary on this. One, scary for the rest of Major League Baseball if they figure it out. Scary if the Royals are what they are, because eventually they will come down to earth. Let me explain. The Royals 1 through 5 hitters been pretty good this year. Pretty solid. Bobby Witt Jr. has been good. Garcia's had his moments. He's been up and down. Salvi's been terrific. Pasquantino's had his moments. But the outfield, MJ Melendez has been brutal at the plate for most of the season. Kyle Isabel doesn't add much, although he hit a homer the other night. And Nelson Velasquez has really, really struggled. The Royals' outfield collectively is hitting, I think, 200. Not a lot of pop. That's 3 of your 9 starting positions. So your whole outfield, Drew Waters doing pretty well at the minors. Maybe he's an answer to come up. If he hit just 228, his normal slash line in the big leagues, and I saw the numbers of Randy Jazirli, if he just came up and hit 228, had his certain on base and slug that he's done in his major league career, that would be better than any of the outfielders they have right now.
Yeah.
And that's not great. So the scary part for the Royal or for the rest of the league is imagine if those guys get going. The scary part for Royals fans, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, the scary part for Royals is what if they are what they are?
Yeah.
And you're finding ways to win some close games. Your pitchings keep you in it. But what happens when the starting rotation collectively hits a 2-week slump, which is going to probably happen? You're going to have 3. Lugo's going to have maybe a rough start. Then Walker's going to have a rough start, and Singer. Like all 3 of them at some point is going to have a rough start. And the Royals will have a losing streak or 5 games or more this year. I can pretty much guarantee it. Every team does. They're going to have a tough stretch. The question is, can this rotation keep doing what they're doing? ERA at 3.06 for the next 112 games. Can they do that? And if they can, then you can cover up those weaknesses in the outfield in regards to the lack of offense, the lack of production, the lack of pop, the lack of power. So there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can look at half full and say, man, Melendez gets something figured out. Isabel's just a serviceable player. He is what he is. I don't think anybody expects more than what he's doing. But Velasquez and Melendez, you expect more power, more extra base power, more pop. You're not seeing it. Or you can be Debbie Downer. The glass is half empty. These guys are what they are. They're not going to get any better. We got to make a trade. We're going to have to give up some of our farm system to get a big-time bat. Hunter Renfroe plays outfield at times. He can slide over the DH. He's not exactly going to cover off the ball, but he had a big hit last night. He hasn't been as good as I think they thought he would be. But I think he has at least a track record in the big leagues long enough to say he is what he is, and he's going to provide some pop. But Melendez doesn't have a long track record in the league yet, and Velasquez obviously doesn't either. So those 2 guys, I think, are the biggest question marks for me offensively because Kyle Isabel is what he is. To me, he's a 4th outfielder.
Yeah.
But and Drew Waters ends up being a center fielder, fine, and Kyle Isabel will come off the bench, no problems. But Velasquez and Melendez, those 2, if they get going, then this Royals team, boy, holy shnikes. And their pitching stays fairly consistent. But even if they don't get going, if the pitching can keep doing what they're doing now, then they'll be right there at the end of the year, and they will probably be in the playoffs as a wild card. They're on pace for 93, 94 wins. I saw the Royals post magic numbers 116, which I thought was pretty funny. But there's reason to be optimistic about the Royals. But if there is a concern, and I've said this all along, when the Royals were batting around and scoring 10 runs, 12 runs there for a stretch, and I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong about this offense. And then they went back to being, quiet. Defense is really good. Pitching's been really good. Bullpen's been good since they figured out who their closer is, although McCarthy's had a couple bumpy outings, but every closer does.
Yeah.
They figured out their bullpen. Schreiber's been amazing. They have their roles kind of figured out, I think, now. And the rotation has been outstanding. The defense has been outstanding. Bobby Witt Jr. has been great. Salvador Perez has been great. They're the leaders of the team. The only weakness you see with this team is offensive consistency 1 through 9. Because 1 through 5, not bad. 6, 7, 8, 9, shaky. And 2 of those big spots are 2 younger guys. One you traded for with the Cubs, Velasquez, and the guy you traded, Johnny Cuellas, isn't even on the team anymore. So you could say that was an okay trade for the Royals. And he's got tons of potential, like everybody does. And Melendez is the one that's probably been the most disappointing so far.
For sure. Yeah, because Velasquez, I was talking about it the other day. It's like he traded 14 home runs in 40 games last year, and he had 3 through 40 this year. And I don't know if he's hit another one since the 40th game of the year or not. But it's like that he's got some pop, but that's what he is.
He traded a middle reliever for him.
He's not a guy that's hitting for average that you expected to do that, right? You got him for the pop that he has, and he's not producing that right now, like he did obviously with 14 homers in 40 games that he played last year. So, but yeah, Melendez is definitely the one that's disappointing because you want him to hit for average, and also you want a little pop from him too, and you're really not getting either one of those from him right now. So it's like that's probably the one that. But again, you can cover that up if your rotation continues to pitch the way that they are right now. But again, you're going to have those down times. Every rotation will. It doesn't matter how good they are. They're going to go through a stretch where it's like, here it didn't work. And one thing that everybody needs to realize is the Royals they've figured their bullpen out, but nothing's ever going to be like it was in 2014 and 15. That was a stretch that was one of the best ever in the game. And not every closer is going to just go out there and be like Wade Davis, right? And so I think Royals fans that have been here since then and since past then, but well before then, need to understand that part of it for sure. Like, you figured out MacArthur's your closer, but he's not Wade Davis. He's not going to go out there and not have any kind of shaky starts or anything, or shaky appearances or anything like that. It's going to be, there's going to be some nights where it doesn't work out. And so you just got to go with the flow of the season. And if you can do that, then you're going to be right there. I'm starting to believe in this team.
You're starting to believe in this team? I believe in this team.
I want to go through 50. I wanted to get through 50 games just to see where they were at. And so, this team is legit. There's no question about it. And so now it's like, I think this team can do some things, but again, it does concern you that you're not getting a lot of production on the backside should something happen with your rotation during the postseason or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out for sure.
Batting average isn't the be-all like it once was back in the day, but Melendez is hitting 184. He's your starting left fielder. Velasquez is hitting 221. He's your right fielder. Or Renfroe, who's hitting 156. Yeah. And then Kyle Isabel's hitting 211. He's the best of all those guys. So it's, I guess Velasquez 221. Velasquez, you want pop out of him. 131 at bats, only 3 homers.
Yeah.
Hitting 221, 12 RBIs. Melendez, 141 at bats, 4 homers, hitting 184 and only 12 RBIs.
Yeah.
His on-base percentage is 238, which is horrible. If he was on a major big time, like he was with the Yankees or something like that, he'd already be out of the lineup.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because they have more options. So the outfielders have done really basically jack squat. And if you could get anything from them, maybe Drew Waters is the answer. Down in the minors, bring him up and give him a boost. But Melendez, considered part of the future. I don't know if Velasquez is part of the future or not. He has potential. Renfroe is basically a rental. They had him signed. He's got an option, this and that. He provides pop. Renfroe's not going to hit 300 and hit 20. Renfroe's going to probably hit 2. At the end of the year, Renfroe's probably going to be hitting 220 with 18 home runs and 67 RBIs. And that's okay. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing is, he's hitting 156 right now, and how many home runs does he have? 3. So those guys got to, even if they don't hit for great average, hit 215, 230, somewhere in that range is good enough, as long as you drive in some runs and hit some homers, get some extra base hits, and those guys are not doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the way the outfield was even put together at the beginning of the year, because it's a whole lot of guys that have never really been every day, this is my position outfielders, right? For their entire careers. And, Isbel played in the outfield, but he moves around a little bit, right? And he's not an everyday starter at one spot. And Melendez moved from catcher to outfield, and now he's actually doing pretty good at left field. Once he's actually kind of learned that, I kind of like the way he's playing defense out there. He's learned the position and doing a good job. But if you don't swing, and none of these guys have really had bats that blow you away.
No.
They're getting some spots here. Renfroe's a guy that's in some spots, has done some things in his career, but it's kind of weird to see an outfield just put together like that to start the season in the major leagues, where nobody's really like, oh yeah, this is a dude right here. And you really look in the past, they haven't had a lot of those guys, but Alex Gordon was a guy that was homegrown and just was out there for years and years and years, so you could expect that.
They have 4 outfielders. None of them have more than 3 home runs or 17 RBIs through 49 games, and yet they're 30-19.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, and that tells you how good their defense, how good their starting pitching, and their bullpen has been, except for a couple bumps in the road. Early near Will Smith, they figured out the closer part, and then MacArthur had a couple bumpy outings. But other than that, the bullpen's pretty solid. Starting pitching's been lights out, and the defense has been very good. And your stars, Witt Jr. and Perez have delivered.
Yeah. One of the things I do want to say is this team's done a real good job of beating teams that they should be beating right now, too.
That's true.
And so there's going to be a point of the schedule that's going to get a little bit more difficult here probably for the Royals at some point during the season. But they're doing a really good job of taking care of business against teams they should take care of business against.
And that's a sign of a good team, but they lost the season series 4-2 to Baltimore. They lost 2 out of 3 to Seattle. So they haven't exactly, beating the drums off anybody.
This is kind of my
good.
point that I was talking earlier about. Right. I wanted to see what this team was 50 games in and just see where we're at.
Yeah. Well, 50 games in, they have the second best start in Royals history.
So might tie
if you're not starting to believe by now, or you don't believe by now, then I just guess you're never gonna believe.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Coming up in 30 seconds, we're going to talk state championship.
Extended warranties on vehicles have become a very popular thing. You may have bought one, but what do you do to take advantage of the benefits when you need them? Keever Brothers Automotive in Beloit works with most all warranty contracts, and we can be your advocate when you need repairs. Just bring us your car, your concerns, and a copy of the warranty contract, and we take care of the rest. Let our fast, friendly service help you get the most out of your extended warranty contract. Find Keever Brothers Automotive just south of the courthouse in Beloit or on the web at keeverbrothers.com.
It's just nice to have, kids that enjoy the game as much as they do, and golf as well as they do. We had some good performances today, and we had some that were disappointed in their performances. So it's always fun, and it's fun for the kids. It's not the satisfaction for me in the winning part of it. It's just the satisfaction of seeing them do as well as they can, and then usually that produces winning if you can.
Lakeside head golf coach Corey Bucher, Lakeside winning their 4th consecutive state Sand Greens championship yesterday. They won by 33 strokes over second place St. John's, who finished runner-up for the 4th straight season as well. Lakeside had a team score of 311, St. John's 344, Riley County 351. Lakeside junior Jace Cunningham shot a 4 under 66 to win his 2nd straight individual Sand Greens title. He finished 8 strokes ahead of Ethan Worth of Rock Hills and Harvey Listener of Riley County, who tied for 2nd. So can we call it a dynasty?
Yeah, I think we already could have last year, but we're just adding on to it for sure.
Lakeside golf
doesn't
like
look
Chiefs
like it's stopping either.
Chiefs hold my soda pop.
Yeah, they're talking with Corey, and by the way, you can hear his full interview on the Sports Ticket podcast at KatieCountry94.com. We played that yesterday, and it's been posted there on the website. And again, KatieCountry94.com for the Sports Ticket podcast to hear what Corey said about everybody. But Jace was outstanding yesterday too. I mean, he never bogeyed an entire hole on the day. He was par or better on every hole that he shot. And I was talking with Corey after we were done with the interview. It's like, sometimes a kid will have like a double bogey here, and he'll make up for it with like 3 birdies in a row, and it won't even matter, right? But it was just consistent all day for Jason, and to win by 8 strokes, I don't care what state tournament you're at. Winning by 8 strokes is an impressive day for sure. And 66, 4 under par there at Tipton for Jace. That was very, very impressive for him. So a win there. And then I do want to go through the rest of the top 10 from the area real quick. As there were a lot of area athletes and golfers, obviously, here in this state Sand Greens tournament. Most of our 1A schools do Sand Greens golf. So everybody that qualified was competing there yesterday. Elijah Field of Pike Valley finished 4th. Gabe Smith of Lakeside took 6th. Chris LaRock of St. John's tied for 7th. Tatum Miller of Lakeside finished in 9th. Jacob Winkler's of St. John's finished 10th place. So those are the top 10 finishers. You can find the full results at ncksports.com. Lakeside, it's been very, very impressive to see what they've been doing. Ian Christine is the only senior on this team, and he put a lot of work into improving throughout the year here to get back out this year and have success. And so he's the only senior. So, 4 of the 5 that golfed at state, and then there's a couple that, I think probably could have finished in the top 20 at state that Corey Brooker couldn't even take to the tournament because he can only have 5 golfing. So, yeah, it looks like there's a stretch here where Lakeside can continue this run for quite a while, as long as Sand Greens is still a thing. There's not as many teams that are doing it, so I don't know how long the state will continue to have a Sand Greens championship. I have no idea on that, but I got to say, if you're in Sand Greens, you're probably tired of Lakeside winning, like the NFL's tired of the Chiefs winning. We'll put it that way. But if you're Lakeside and their fans and their kids, they've put in the work to get to where they're at. I can promise you that.
Speaking of the Chiefs, photographer has reportedly dropped all charges against Rasheed Rice. So for all you, I told you, ladies and gentlemen, I told you. We don't have all the skinny in the details. And no, it doesn't mean that he made up the whole story either. I saw somebody post, he made up the whole story. No, it just means that I don't have enough of a case. Maybe there's something to my story, but there's not enough worth moving forward, or I'm not going to get what I want if I in this whole situation anyway. So that's that. Don't know all the details, but that whole thing has been dropped. So Rashee Rice, can we go back to he has 1 strike instead of 2 strikes? Okay. I mean, this is what you do. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can I please get your attention? Aren't you supposed to assume that we're all innocent until you decide we're guilty based on the evidence before you in a court of law? But in society, there is no law.
No.
Well, there is a law. There is law. There are laws, but, hell, people don't use their blinkers. People speed. People run stop signs. People break the law all the time. That's not a good thing. But you have to have enforcement in order. So there are laws. But this is what people do. People do not allow. This is the way our society has become, and it's pretty sad and pathetic, that we get to a point where we don't even allow the truth to come out. We don't even give it a chance. We read a headline. We won't read the story because we're too damn lazy. And we just run with a headline. We run with a rumor that comes across town that you hear and you just assume it's true. You don't even check into it. You don't ask anybody else. You take the one person who's got a big mouth who lies all the time and you take them as truthful, and then you spread a rumor that's untrue. I've dealt with that in my life many times. And so, is it that difficult to just, dear God, I know, for all you adults out there listening, if you preach to your kids patience, and you go around spreading information about people that you don't even know what's going on, you're not patient either. You're a hypocrite. Because patience also applies to adults, like allowing due process, allowing something to play itself out, understanding that you are innocent until proven guilty. And just because you had a prior situation does not automatically mean you're guilty of everything you're accused of for the rest of your life. They are separate cases. They are separate instances. I tried to get that across to people. And here we are. Where are the people? Where are all the people responding? Going, oh, I'm sorry, I jumped to conclusions. No, you people go into a little rabbit hole, and then you'll pop out when something else happens because, I don't know. It's pathetic. It's sad. It's lazy. I could go on. And I'm not a big fan of where some of this stuff is going. And like I said, I read about these issues. I see it on TV. I hear it on the radio. I deal with it in my real life. I've dealt with it with my family, extended family. And it's just, listen, how hard is it for you to just sit tight and not have a comment about every single thing? Now, if you're out there and you are one of the better people, as I like to call you, and you don't jump to conclusions and you don't spread information immediately as gossip, and you don't enjoy going around bragging to your friends that you have some kind of inside scoop, and then, oh, by the way, it's dead wrong and it's a lie, and then you go hide and don't admit that, oh, I guess I was mistaken, then kudos to you. Kudos to you. I appreciate you. But here we are. Rashee Rice was involved in a situation. He made a mistake. Big-time mistake. He made 2 big-time mistakes. He was racing in Fort Worth, Texas at 6:20 in the evening with a friend of his with some sports cars, and he put people's lives in danger. There is no excuse for it. And on top of that, he fled the scene. So you could call that 2 strikes, but it's one case. All together, collectively, it's one case. He had one bad day. I'm not saying he's a great person. He might be horrible. He may have all kinds of priors that have been expunged and paid off by people and handlers of his, and he may be the worst person on earth. I don't know. What I do know is he plays in the National Football League. He's not in jail, and he has a case against him right now that he's going to deal with. There will be consequences. Yeah. How severe they are, I have no idea. And whatever consequences he gets, he probably deserves from that case. As I said, this thing with this photographer / person he met at a club late at night, and you can read different stories, and if people already assume he's guilty, they're going to shove the information on social media that's against Rashee Rice, and they won't show you the full story that presents both sides. because that's just the way society is. Okay? I had somebody that's all about one political issue recently, and they send me articles that shove their agenda and want me to report on it. Like, I don't, whether I agree with your agenda or not, that is not journalism. That is not news reporting. That is not investigative reporting. No. That is you with your agenda. That's your stance. The only opinionated show we have on this airwaves is a sports talk. That's the sports ticket you're listening to right now. Okay? But all this other stuff, listen, if you want to, there's the term, as we know, fair and balanced, which I don't think exists. It should, but it's a great motto.
Good concept.
Sounds great.
Sure. Yeah.
But you actually got to do it. Fair and balanced. You got to do it. Provide the truth. Innocent till proven guilty. But what we do now is you're guilty as hell until somehow you're innocent, but we're going to ignore you're innocent because I don't want to admit I was wrong. That's what the society is that we live in today. So for all you jumped to conclusions about this particular case that has now been dropped, all charges, perhaps you can, send an apology to Rashee Rice. Maybe, find him on Instagram and Twitter instead of, sending him death threats and talking about how bad he's going to kill the Chiefs' chances of a three-peat. Maybe you should just be a man, step up, or a woman, be an adult and go, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah.
But that won't happen.
No.
We know that won't happen. So anyway, Rashee Rice, now can we go back to he has one situation instead of two? Because just because and first of all, he hasn't been convicted, thrown in the slammer yet for everything that happened in the first situation. And all of us have made mistakes. Some of us have made bigger mistakes than others. And some of us have faced consequences for our mistakes. And some of us have the golden spoon in our mouth when we're a baby and mommy and daddy bail you out all the time. So maybe you're okay. But Rashee Rice, we should act like this never happened because all the charges have been dropped. And we move on. Well, he was at a place he shouldn't have been. Dear Lord, athletes are at strip clubs. Athletes are at adult clubs. Athletes are at bars. It don't matter if it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. They're there.
Yeah.
They go. Most athletes do this, okay? So don't sit here and tell me, well, he put himself in a bad position. He should have never been there. Well, he has a right to have fun. He has a right to go out with his friends. Now, how he handles himself, that's a whole different deal. But people jump to conclusions. But that's what we do. We want to throw the book at somebody, unless it's ourselves. Then we just don't like it, do we? Suddenly, when people say stuff about us, or if somebody says something about you, and you're like, well, that's not fair. Like, karma's a you-know-what. So, Rashee Rice, don't have to worry about this one. All charges are dropped. On that note, I want to segue into something a little bit more fun, and that is, how was your vacation or trip to see the cast of Scream and whoever else you saw?
It was great. I did not race any cars on that Dallas freeway.
But was anybody else racing cars around you?
I didn't run into any Corvettes or Lamborghinis that were speeding.
Nobody from Colorado went 95 passing you in a 70?
No. People from Texas, once I got down there, I was like, I guess I'm just going to do what they're doing. So I'm going to keep up with them all.
Let me tell you something about drivers, and this is pretty easy to do. Ready? Texas drivers drive crazy and super fast. Colorado drivers drive super fast, like they can't wait to get away from the mountains or get to the mountains, depending which direction they are. And Nebraska drivers are the slowest people on earth. There, got it.
Missouri
Kansas
drivers like to stay in the left lane when they're going slow, too.
That's true. Then there's the Missouri, yeah, you're
and
right.
Oklahoma kind of does that. Oklahoma drivers, go fast and then they go slow and then they go fast and they go. I don't know how many times I'll be going south on the interstate and I get passed by an Oklahoma tech and then 5 minutes later I'm passing them. 5 minutes later they're passing me again and I'm like, what are we doing?
It's called cruise control, but what they do is they get on their phone. They don't have cruise control apparently. They don't put it on. I've noticed that many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain people with certain plates that seem to do that.
No, the trip was great. I've done this before, but this second time around was so much better because I knew exactly what I needed to do. Because the lines are crazy to meet all these celebrities and people, and it's not just the Scream cast; it's people from a lot of different scary movies and things like that. And so, it's a whole horror convention, so it's everybody's there. So I did know more of what I needed to do, and there was this one cast member that wasn't there last time that actually ended up sealing the deal for me to buy the ticket to go down, and that was David Arquette. So, but it's a lot more interesting, and it was a better experience, and it's different the second time because I wasn't starstruck this time, basically. That's what it comes down to. So you've been there before, and you've done it just like anything in life, right? So had a great time meeting all those people, and there's the old saying that says don't meet your heroes, and I would not call the cast of Scream my heroes. My heroes are my dad, who fought in Vietnam and was in the Army, my cousin Adam, who fought muscular dystrophy until he left us in 2007, and all those kids I've worked with. Those are my heroes. But the gist of it is, they say, don't meet the people that might mean the most to you, and people that you put on a pedestal for whatever reason it might be. This is not that case, man. These people are all so nice and care about their fans, and whether it's a front or not, they're presenting it that way. And so that's what's really cool about it for me, is like, they know why people are there. They want the people that I dealt with. There was one person that was there that wasn't quite like that, but they know why people are there, and so they want to meet you. You want to meet them. They want to make it a good experience, and they want you to remember that. And I think that's something that they've got down pretty good. They kind of understand that the fans are here for us, and we're here for them, and we're not here for ourselves. And so it was really cool, and to be able to do that, and I never thought the kid in high school that kept rewinding that Scream tape would meet all the people that are in there, or not all of them. I haven't met Courtney Cox yet, but she'd be about the only one that I'd probably want to go back to something like this for, because I've done it and I've been in it, and it's a good time. If you are into any of these things, and it doesn't have to be scary movies, right? They have Comic-Cons everywhere where celebrities go. If you can do it and you have the means to do it, I would definitely recommend it. It's a lot of people. If you don't want to be around a lot of people, you probably don't want to be there. But it's so cool to just be in that element and around it and have fun with so many people around you.
So are there other movies and casts that are there besides Scream?
Yeah, there's probably like 60 to 70 guests every year.
Okay.
And so the guy who directed Thanksgiving, and actually the guy who directed Friday the 13th was there this year. It's different. It's a different group every year that they bring in.
Is it 1 day, 2 day?
It's 3 day. It's a 3 day weekend.
And where
Friday,
is it
Saturday,
held at?
Sunday. It's at Irving Convention Center.
Okay.
And that's another thing. Last time I went, it was out at the airport in a hotel.
Okay.
Basically, that just was not big enough for the amount of people that are there.
Yeah.
And so this was a whole better situation, because it's a 4-level convention center that's huge. I mean, it looks like a miniature arena from the outside. And so they do it in the convention center 3 days, and there's vendors there and celebrities, and just there's all kinds of stuff. It's very well put together. You can tell that they've been doing it for a while.
Last year, you got to meet Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, so it was Nev Campbell, Skeet Ulrich, and then Jamie Kennedy are the ones that I actually met.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But this year, I saw you had a picture with David Arquette.
Oh, it was wild. And so, and David Arquette, like I said, is the reason I went, because he wasn't there last time. Matthew Lillard's line is so long, it's impossible to get in there. But they were all 5 of those that we just mentioned were in that picture with me. I was like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. I'm going to buy this, right, to make sure that I get what I want out of this weekend, because there's no guarantee that you're going to meet all these people, because the lines are so long. They'll cap it after so many, because they know that they can't sign any more autographs by the time this thing closes. And so it was that, and then Marley Shelton, I don't know if people know her. She was Wendy Peppercorn from from The Sandlot. Oh yeah, and she's been like Never Been Kissed and some other movies. She was there, and because she's in Scream 4 and 5, and so I
didn't even know there's that many Screams.
Yeah, there's 6.
Oh dear God,
7's coming.
Oh dear God.
But she was there too, so I was like, I got to grab a picture with her too, and there's another one from Halloween movies that I've seen. And
if you don't remember The Sandlot, she was the lifeguard.
She was
that
the
gave the mouth to the kid who faked that he was drowning. Yeah, and I saw that picture. I'm like, oh my God, that is her.
Yeah, I posted it on Facebook, and I was like, for most people, this is Wendy Peppercorn.
Yes, right.
But she's been in a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's just so cool. Like the other thing I will say, like what I was talking about, how they're so nice to you, is like, on Sunday was the last thing I wanted to do. Was I wanted to get David Arquette's autograph. So I got there early, got the autograph, and they'll personalize it to you, so you write your name right, and I'll say to Dusty. He'd already done that a minute before and signed the quote that I wanted after he put my name on there, and then put the autograph after that. So his mind's processing all of that part of it. And so before I walked away, I said, I do want you to know, I said, I drove down here from Kansas, and you're the person that sold me the ticket because I saw you were coming. I really wanted to come and meet you. He's like, Dusty, I really appreciate that. Like, he called me by name and said, I really appreciate it. Now, again, whether that's a front, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
He actually remembered the name that he wrote on my autograph. Didn't look at the picture to see what my name was. He remembered who he was writing that to and said, Dusty, I'm glad you came.
Yeah, that's cool.
I appreciate that. So those are the things that I can give examples of people that are actually there and appreciate you actually being out there and being fans. So it's really cool.
Well, I don't want to rain on your parade. I think that's awesome that you had a great time. You went and did all that and you recommended to people. But I'm going to tell you right now that I have all kinds of great movies that I love. You know, in fact, they have the best movies of the 80s I was talking about today. And some of the movies on the list, like Dirty Dancing's number one. The best movies from the 80s, Dirty Dancing 1, Back to the Future 2, E.T. 3, Top Gun 4, Die Hard 5, Terminator 6, Raiders of the Lost Ark 7, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back 8, Ghostbusters 9, Aliens 10. There's others on this list. You know, The Shining, The Goonies, Rain Man, Indiana Jones, Airplane, Fatal Attraction, Gremlins, Karate Kid, Batman, Beetlejuice. I can keep going on and on and on. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm going to tell you right now, if I would love to meet Tom Cruise. That'd be cool. I want to meet my dad for the first time. He doesn't. I'm probably not aware that I'm his son. But I would love to meet him. I would love to meet Michael J. Fox. I'd love to meet Bruce Willis. I'd love to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I'm telling you right now, as much as I like those guys and as much as it'd be cool to meet them, Dusty, I am old. I am not one that wants to stand in lines. I am tired of lines. I hate standing in lines at ball games, and it takes forever to get something. I'm not a big fan of wasting no offense to you, not a big fan of wasting my life away standing in line. Now, you could easily come back and say, Wade, you do this and this. There's no way I would do that because you're wasting your life in your way. And that's absolutely correct. So I'm not being critical at all. I'm just saying standing in line to get an autograph from somebody, and I'm just a person out of 1,000 they're going to sign that day, is not. Now, if I can get in line and I can wait maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I'm probably cool.
And I am not. Me pretty much.
What's that?
That was me pretty much.
That's
once
cool.
I got in there.
Yeah, but if I have to wait more than 15 minutes, I'm going to get. No, I'm not get cranky. I'm not going to do it. I'll just get out of line and go to a shorter line. Is what I'll do.
Yeah.
Oh, there's somebody over here. There's a shorter line. Yeah, sure. The actor, actress. Yeah, it's the extra in Top Gun. Sure. I don't want to wait in line for an hour and a half for Tom Cruise. I'll go over and whatever. So that would just be me, as I'm not a big. That's why I don't go to Disneyland or Disney World, because I don't go to amusement parks very much. I hate waiting in lines, and then you get on a ride and 2 minutes later it's over.
Yeah, the lines that I waited in were to actually get in the building when it opened. But the thing that I'm sitting in line, I was reading a book or watching a movie with my headphones on. It was like things that I could do while I was waiting. Then the last day, it was like I just chatting with the next person in line with me and kind of talking about stuff. It was kind of fun. And when you're waiting in the lines, I'm by myself. I pretty much go everywhere by myself. So, but it's like you're with like-minded people, right? And so you can converse and talk and chat. And when you get stuck there, but I get you.
Yeah,
my body was physically sore.
Yeah,
after Saturday, because that was the full day, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh man, I left at 4 and went. I grabbed a couple things and got some food. Went to the motel at I was there at 7, and I was dead. I was done for the day.
Yeah.
Like, it was over. And I get what you're saying, man. The physical toll of my lower back was the worst part of the weekend for sure.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen, we're not getting any younger. I mean, you just turned 40 recently, and I'm 48. As my son reminds me all the time, my youngest. And so I did a lot of painting, and I did a lot of I was cleaning up some baseboards in a place, and I was doing this and doing that. So I was on my knees a lot, working on the floor, and then you're turning and doing this and that and whatever. And I'll tell you, once when we were coming home doing this stuff, we stopped at a place to eat, and I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like an old person. I feel like I have arthritis in my knees.
Oh, yeah.
I just feel I'm starting to move like my dad's moving now at the age of 76. I'm like, dear Lord. And then I was able to work it out once, after I get a night's rest. I mean, I actually feel pretty good today, but as I get older, I hear that it doesn't.
I didn't work like you did.
When you get older, I hear that it doesn't work that way, that even when you get out of bed after an 8-hour nap, you still don't feel much better, but whatever the case may be. Well, Matt, I'm glad you had a good trip. Looks like you got to meet, the star of Sandlot, so that's pretty cool too.
Yeah,
that was extra credit for you.
Oh yeah,
it
was
awesome.
I made sure I did it completely right this time because I've already been there once and knew what I needed to do. So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Stanley Cup playoffs.
Herodic, one last chance, and he'll bounce it wide. The Edmonton Oilers are headed to Dallas for the Western Conference Final.
Oilers are up 3-0, but they hung on to win 3-2 over the Canucks in the Game 7. Nothing better in sports than Game 7. They win 3-2 over Vancouver in the West Semis. They move on to the Conference Finals. Game 1 of that series against the Dallas Stars Thursday night in Dallas. Eastern Conference Finals will start between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers tomorrow night in New York, so no hockey tonight. NBA Conference Finals matchups are set. It's exactly what everybody predicted. Pacers versus Celtics in the East, while the Mavericks and Timberwolves face off in the West. Eastern Conference Finals take center stage tonight. Game 1 in Boston. Tip-off set for 7 on ESPN at TD Garden. The Celtics are a heavy favorite. I think it'd be hilarious if the Pacers won. Mavs at the T-Wolves tomorrow at 7:30. Game 1 in the Western Conference Finals on TNT. T-Wolves knocked out the Nuggets. They were up 2-0. Won the first 2 games on the road. Then they were down 3-2, and then they won Game 6 at home and won Game 7 on the road after they were down 20 in the second half against the Nuggets. Nugget fans are still got to be in just shell shock today yet.
I didn't get. I was driving and then hit a storm. I wasn't able to watch the the game that they played Nuggets and T-Wolves in Game 7. I couldn't believe it once I actually read up on what happened and saw it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, man.
I didn't think the T-Wolves would win Game 7 in Denver and went down 20. I didn't think they would go win the game, but I did tell family that we were watching the game with, I said, the T-Wolves will get back and make it tight because 20-point lead in NBA is nothing. And then within about 5 minutes, they were right back in it. And then that goes back to the whole Bill Burr comment, the comedian. Well, the NBA, it's not rigged as to who wins. It's rigged to make it close. One team gets a 20-point lead, and all of a sudden the next team gets in the bonus, goes to the foul line. And it's like, and that's exactly what happened the other night in regards to not the foul line, but all of a sudden T-Wolves hit a couple threes, Nuggets miss a couple shots, a couple fouls go the way of the T-Wolves, and they're right back in it. So the TV execs can't be super happy. Can you imagine a Pacer T-Wolf final? That's really going to.
Oh man!
Wow,
that's what I'm hoping actually happens.
Me too. But they're going to want Mavs Celtics. They're going to want Luka Irving versus his former team, the Celtics. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. That's what they're going to want. That's the best that they can get. Dan Patrick used to work for ESPN, and he does a show on TV/radio, and he's got the Dan Patrick Show. He ripped ESPN after their broadcast, the Pacers Knicks. He said, this is embarrassing for ESPN. He goes, for all those people who believe ESPN is East Coast bias, after watching that game, how can you think they don't? Like, the Pacers are in control of that game all day long. They were shooting 79% second quarter, making a ton of threes. Halliburton was the best player by far. Pacers went on the road, beat the Knicks in Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. And instead, it's Stephen A. Smith doing some stupid stuff, is what Dan Patrick said. I didn't see it. And then it was all about the Knicks, even though they were getting their butts kicked.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, the Pacers won, but the Knicks, all the guys were hurt. It's like, well, you have what you have. I mean, that is what it is.
It's where we're at.
And they were at home, and they got blown out. And the Pacers didn't get much credit because people on the East Coast don't watch Pacers basketball. They act like they're experts, but they don't only watch. Stephen A. Smith's a Knicks fan, so it's even a conflict of interest. He shouldn't even be on there talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of him, by the way. Never have been. No. And they shove him down your throat over and over. But apparently people watch, so I guess all you people love him. I don't get it. I don't get the love affair with it at all. I think he's old and past his time and be done. And he was I thought he was a niche kind of guy that was maybe, I liked him at first when he was first on TV, but not so much anymore. But it is what it is. But Dan Patrick, listen, I respect his opinion. That's a guy who worked at ESPN, and he's sitting here going, I watched this game, and I was like, it's embarrassing how much they're talking about the Knicks over and over. I can totally see why people think it's East Coast bias, because Bristol, Connecticut is nearby New York. And absolutely, that's what it feels like. It was like, I understand when you talk about a team all night long when they're winning all night long, but when the team that's losing by 20 is the one you're talking about more than the team that's winning and doing great things, that's not a good broadcast. And it's not a good halftime show, and it's not a good pregame or postgame show. But that is what it is. It's not as good as it once was, that's for sure.
Nick's going to complain about injuries. So how do you think you got where you're at? You think the Sixers are going to you think you played a full...
Joel Embiid was 100%. No.
Like, this happens.
Interesting contrast. This is posted on Twitter. The defending NBA champions have not made it past the second round since 2019. The Nuggets didn't get past second round. Looked like they were going to. The contrast is the NFL. The Chiefs have 6 straight championship game appearances, 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls, and 3 Super Bowl wins. So you've got the Chiefs going back to back and going all the time and making it deep, and then you got the NBA where nobody gets past second round as NBA finalist or a champion the year before.
Yeah, that is crazy to think it had been that long.
Yeah,
because it was not that. Obviously for a bit when the Cavs and Warriors were playing in the finals every year. Right. So, yeah, that is interesting to see that trend kind of change in the NBA because there's actually been a lot of teams in the NBA. NBA is probably it is historically the one where there's the least amount of champions in like the last 50 years because teams three-peat. There's 6 out of 8 for the Bulls. Lakers and Celtics just dominate in the 80s, right? And the Pistons getting in there for just a little bit, had back-to-back. And
Rockets had back-to-back.
And it's like the same teams are kind of winning. And, Spurs win 5 championships.
Warriors won, 3 in so many years?
It was, yeah. So it is interesting to see that trend kind of change in the NBA because it was not like that for quite a while.
I'm cool with it changing.
Absolutely. Well, if the Spurs were at the top, I'd rather have that just like the Chiefs, right?
Of course. Pacers, Celtics, who wins and how many games?
I got to think it's over for Indiana here. Boston's playing well, and I just think they're just so much better as a whole than anybody that's left, to be completely honest with you. That doesn't mean they're going to win the championship, obviously, but I'm going to pick the Celtics, and I'm going to pick them in 6.
The Celtics are so Jekyll and Hyde, and they don't play well at home in the playoffs, and Tatum and Brown are up and down. Porzingis may come back in the series. Now, if Porzingis is 100% healthy, I'm taking the Celtics. But you sit here saying they're playing well, and this goes back to the Royals. Well, the Royals are playing well, but who are they playing?
Exactly.
The Celtics play the Heat, who Jimmy Butler missed most of the series. They had guys missing like they always do every year, the Heat do. They won that series, I think, in 5. They just beat the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell missed the last 2 games of that series. Yeah. The Pacers are healthy. I'm going to say Pacers are going to get it done. I think people just jump on the Celtic bandwagon way too much last year and this year, and I think everybody's like, it's just lining up perfectly for the Celtics. And I can just see the Celtics finally playing a team that's actually pretty good because they haven't played anybody that's great yet. I don't know if the Pacers are great, but I think their style of play causes problems. I think it's going to be an up and down series.
For sure.
And the Celtics sometimes shoot way too many threes and settle. And the Celtics have all the pressure in the world on them. I'm going to take the Pacers in 7. Pacers in 7.
I hope you're right.
The Western Conference Finals, Mavs, T-Wolves. I'll go first. I'll go first on this one. I'll take the T-Wolves in 7.
Yeah, I just don't see this not going 7 if they both play the way they have been, right? Mm-hmm. But Dallas has been through it and they've been coming out on top here, and this is a real tough one. I'm gonna do the same thing. T-Wolves in 7.
I will say what's interesting is that the Celtics and the Mavs have the experience edge. The Thunder, I thought, showed their lack of experience, and the Mavs showed theirs winning Game 6. And SGA was awesome, but didn't have enough support. The Mavs play good defense. The T-Wolves play great defense. And you sit here and say about the experience in closing series, OKC didn't do it. The T-Wolves just closed down Denver in Denver. Yeah. So I think the T-Wolves are built a little bit differently, and they have a special player in Anthony Edwards who didn't play well in Game 7. They still won. And the Celtics have more experience than the Pacers. So if you go with the experience side, it should be Celtics-Mavs, and it probably will be since I picked the opposite of that. But you and I are both cheering for what I picked. The Big 12, turning to college basketball, will play its first league games of the 24-25 season on December 30th and 31st. With the conference going to a 20-game league schedule, each team will play 2 league games per week next season, and there will be no byes. So, good thing Kansas didn't have that schedule last year, because Kansas was guys played 6 or 7 guys, had injuries. So if you get a whole bunch of injuries or guys leave or quit your team or not allowed to play, in the case of Naquan Tomlin for K-State last year, you're going to have some problems because you do not have a bye. 20 games, that would be, basically 10 straight weeks, 2 games a week. Yeah,
you could have a full derail if you get an injury like Kevin McCullough last year for KU, right? Like if with no bias built in at all, and now you're 3 weeks without him.
Yikes!
You lose 5 or 6 games, and sorry, season's over as far as trying to win a Big 12 championship. Better just get ready for March.
Yes, I agree with that. Caitlin Clark's Monday night nearly came to an early end. She rolled her ankle early in the second quarter last night, returned to play one of her best games yet. Still wasn't enough for the Fever, as they are 0-4 on the season, lose to Connecticut Sun 88-84. Caitlin Clark had 17 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, 5 turnovers, 5-11 shooting from the floor. Played very well in the fourth quarter on that sprained ankle. But even though she was a loser on the court last night, and I say that jokingly because she's not a loser, but her team was a loser last night, she's a big winner off the court again. And no, I'm not talking about TV ratings this time. Caitlin Clark has signed a multi-year deal with Wilson and will launch her own signature basketball collection. Caitlin Clark will be the first athlete since Michael Jordan in the 1980s to release a Wilson collection. How about that? How about that?
Yeah, it's...
I'm telling you, she is the Steph Curry of the NBA. Or maybe she should be the Michael Jordan of the WNBA.
You're starting to, with the endorsements and all that stuff, you're starting to get to she is the Michael Jordan
of the WNBA.
But, I mean, I need to see the production on the court consistently like Michael Jordan did.
And she'll get there.
And she's off to a great start, I think. Considering some like some of the people that have been that good in college and moving on struck. I mean, I've talked about it a few times. Kelsey Plum struggled when she got in the WNBA, and up until Caitlin Clark, she was the leading scorer in D1, right, in women's. So it's not just like, hey, come in here and dominate. Everybody talking about how bad she played in her first game and had 20 games in her 20 points in her debut, and I'm like, I'll take that anytime.
Yeah, if that's your bad.
And
game.
And it's like it's there, and everything else is. It's at the point of what Michael Jordan was, and now it just needs to all happen on the court for her. And if that happens, then that's people probably think you're crazy by saying those things out loud, but it's not crazy. It's what it is right now.
Stay healthy. That's
what it is.
Obviously a big part of it too.
Yeah, that ankle sprain last night. Did you see the video of it? That was not a normal ankle sprain. Her foot went. I'm like, her shin went forward over her foot.
But she was tough. Came back
most
fourth
of them
quarter.
coming from the side. I was like, she might have ripped something in her tendons and going into her foot from her shin.
It was scary looking. Yeah, I mean, she's going to figure it out. I mean, she's got to adjust to the physicality.
Absolutely.
She's going to have to probably get stronger, which she will, I think. Her game, she's got to get better at the mid-range game. She does have turnovers. She did in college. She'll have some turnovers. She's a really good passer. Obviously, she can shoot. And there's no doubt that the teams that she's playing, they really are accepting the challenge of taking down the supposedly the darling of basketball. And that's what you want to do as a competitor, is you want to take down the best. I mean, Jordan won a lot, but a lot of people, the great players wanted a shot at Jordan. You wanted a shot at him. Same thing with Kobe or Shaq or LeBron or whatever. We close with this, going back to the Rashee Rice situation. Seth Kaiser has some good information about this. He says the alleged victim has reportedly submitted an affidavit to the Dallas police saying it was a misunderstanding what took place that night and asking that the charges be dropped. A few points of clarity from a prosecutor standpoint, okay? It's a common misnomer that alleged victims drop charges. That's not their call. They ask that the state not charge or ask that charges be dismissed once filed, but the ultimate discretion is the state's. It's unfortunately common in domestic violence cases, for example, that alleged victims will ask charges not to be filed or to be dismissed, and the state still proceeds. Again, that's just to clarify the procedural stance. Odds are, in a case like this, the state won't proceed if the alleged victim is asking them not to and or recanting his initial statement, but there's an off chance they do if they think they've got the evidence regarding of the alleged victim's request. So see, it doesn't mean that it's just made up. It just means that there's not enough there for this person to proceed. And he said, let's just move on with my life, and he can move on with his, and just go ahead and be done with this. And please do not charge. I don't want to proceed with charges. But sometimes the state makes that decision for you, and then you've got to tell them, okay, let's drop the suit, or not suit, but the charges. So that's a common mistake that people make about how criminal charging works. And so that's a good clarification on the Rashee Rice situation.
Yeah, it's always these things, like even if it was the other way around, like you the person that initially filed the charges said drop the charges, and that's how it works. That doesn't just mean that
they're dropped like
that. Nothing happened. Yeah. They just know that this is not going to go well. Let's avoid some headaches here.
Yeah.
We'll move on, and we've got his name out here now as somebody that might be a problem.
Yeah.
In their mind.
Yeah.
And so, it is good to have the right clarification on all that, because we don't know what did or didn't happen that night.
But just remember, somebody wrote a headline that said he was guilty as hell. And so let's throw him in the slammer for 10 years and just throw away the key. Have a great day.
State, regional, and national sports talk on your schedule. The Sports Ticket Podcast. Subscribe via Apple, Google, and TuneIn Podcasts or sunflowerstateradio.com.